We made it.
Yeah, made it to Friday. Another week in the books almost.
Right around the corner.
4
more hours.
Yes.
We got picks today at 6:35. We've got the cookie jar at 7:35. A John Jansen Pick Your Poison, and a question that we may have missed this week with the Lions. We'll get to that. But, John, we start first with good news.
Oh, yeah?
If you're listening right now, you're going to have a chance to win Red Wing tickets. We're going to look out for our early listeners, the 6 o'clock crew. This hour, we're giving away tickets for the Red Wing game on Sunday against the Edmonton Oilers. Connor McDavid in the building for the only time this season. I guess they could meet in the Stanley Cup final, but this is the only time this season.
Mm-hmm.
You want to win those tickets, you're going to listen for a drop. When you hear Ken Cal say, woohoo, you're going to call in, you're going to win those tickets, you'll go Sunday, you'll watch the Red Wings play the Oilers.
All right.
Now, the bad news.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess it's your perspective on it, but we knew Skubal was going to be in for some intense negotiations with the Tigers. John, we understood that they might not be on the same page. They could be even far apart. I certainly didn't expect this headline. John Heyman, New York Post. The Tigers and Tarik Skubal have a $250 million gap in the contract talks.
Oh, boy.
Just a few I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed. $250 million.
Well, as you so aptly put on Twitter last night, I think it's mostly a length issue.
Yes, John.
The Tigers just don't want to go far enough down the road.
You think in terms of like each year there might be enough girth, but over the length of the deal, that's how you get $250 million short.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, there's just not enough meat to the contract. And
yes,
so so here's what I'm assuming, if we're just going to go with, I like easy numbers. Math on the radio is really hard for me. If they're going to go $50 million, they probably are in the area of 5 years
versus 10 years.
Okay. And so if we'll give you your $50 million, but we're only going to go 5 years. So $250 million, which is logical. What do we think, Skubal? Is he going to be a $50 million a year pitcher in 5 years? Odds are no. But you're paying for what he's done, what he's going to do, and logic says you're only going to pay for what you're going to do in the future.
He probably has a good 7 years. And you understand that to get some of these big fish, you probably have to tack on an extra year or two,
correct.
Typically.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't sound like the Tigers are willing to do it because the only way you could explain a gap of $250 million is the Tigers are offering more of a 5-year deal.
Right.
And his camp is looking for more of a 8, 9, 10-year deal. Mm-hmm. So this is a pretty big gap, John.
Yes, it is.
And it doesn't, look, two sides start on different. You start high if you're the agent. You start low if you're the team. But this gap, I don't know that you can make up this gap. So then it just reinforces the reality.
Well, my theory on Scott Harris just going to not say anything because maybe they've come to some agreement that we're not going to leak anything out on either side. Well, that didn't last long.
And just so we're keeping it straight, John Heyman is believed to be very close with Scott Boras, that this may be from Scott Boras. This is put out for a reason from Skubal's camp to put pressure on the Tigers either to pony up or maybe it is to apply pressure to, if you're not going to pony up,
make a trade. Mm-hmm. And we want to know early where we're going to be going. And I don't think trade's not going to happen before winter meetings.
Right.
And so I'm not sure why they would want to try and speed up the process. It's just simply not going to happen.
My gut would be, I don't think Skubal's a liar when he says he likes pitching here, that he likes Detroit, that he would like to be here. I think this is pressure trying to put on the team. Shame the Tigers into ponying up or else they look like the bad guys. Like, this is going to be fought in the public through sources, and it's up to the Tigers if they want to counter it with their own narrative of, well, actually, we offered him a 6-7 year deal at $45 to $50 million. I don't know.
I think the Boras and Skubal camp, and I'll just keep it as Scott Boras. I think they've missed we're going to make the Tigers be the bad guys opportunity. And that opportunity went out the window when you can't go more than 95 pitches in a game. You can't go more than 99 in a winner-take-all game. And it's on the heels of watching teams that are still playing and thinking, well, that could be us. And our ace is a guy that, his last pitch was 100 miles per hour. Mm-hmm. And then you're telling me that it's going to go from there to what, his fastball drops down to 85 after that, or 93 after that? No, it just doesn't work like that. Now, it's amazing that he's at 99 pitches and throwing 100 miles an hour, but I just don't think the drop-off is there. And then you look at last night's game. And I know I sent you this last night. It was all over social media, but if you were watching the game, you saw it live. Max Scherzer, who on game days kind of seems like a psychopath because he's visualizing before the game and he's throwing, he's going through his motion without the ball, and you see him warming up in the bullpen, and he's got the six guns going. He has 100% intensity in going into this game. Like, they're down 2-1, they have to win, they're on the road. And then the manager comes out and says, or at least is presenting himself like, I'm going to take you out. And he starts screaming from the mound before the manager is even 20 feet away. I'm not coming out. Do not take me out. I refuse to come out. And I don't know exact words. I'm guessing that there's maybe a few F-bombs in there. Mm-hmm. They leave him in, and he gets out of the inning. And that's the type of fight and intensity. Now, we've seen intensity from Tarik Skubal on the mound, right? But not the intensity of, don't take me out. I have to stay in. I'm going to win this game for the team. That's where I think they've lost let's make the Tigers look bad. Let's put the pressure on the Tigers. Because I think there's a lot of fans going, he should have pitched that seventh inning.
Absolutely, it poisoned the well, right? The perception of Skubal not being competitive enough to go back out there. There is a difference, though, in Max Scherzer having over $300 million in career earnings. Makes it a little easier to be like, I don't care if my arm falls off, right?
Sure,
because that is a big difference.
It is, but if you want that career earnings, there are moments where you can go earn it. And he had an opportunity to right a wrong. He had an opportunity he had a do-over because of what happened last year in the postseason and giving up the grand slam, and no one's going to sit there and blame him solely for the loss. But this was an opportunity, and he was pitching great. He was setting himself up for, if he had come out in that seventh inning and sat them all down or just simply got out of the inning without giving up another run, for this pressure to now be more effective.
Just a reminder of a history lesson here, John, is that Max Scherzer also was criticized here in Detroit for being spent after 6 innings in a game against Boston in the playoffs.
Correct.
They lost.
Correct.
Yes.
And what happened is the Tigers didn't keep Max Scherzer. He went on to win 2 Cy Young Awards and a World Series and pitch another, let's call it 6 to 7 high-end productive seasons. So we could choose.
I'm only using last night as a quick example of the intensity that we wanted to see in the postseason from Skubal last Saturday night.
If I'm the Boris camp, and I really think we need to reframe this a little bit. It's the Skubal camp. He hired Boris intentionally. It's a choice. He subscribes to the Boris philosophy. He wants Boris to do this. It's why he pays him.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Right. So Skubal's philosophy is, if I'm going to pull myself at 100 pitches, and if you don't want to pay me, somebody else will. Period. Point blank. If it's not you, someone else will. Here's our ask. You're $250 million shy. Get your bread up, or I'm pitching for somebody else.
Okay.
That's his perspective. And that, to me, says he's got to go.
Yeah. Trade him. Now it's the pressure is on Scott Harris to get a good return, to get the maximum for him. And it's not just, hey, we're going to send him to this team and this team because, Skubal's going to get paid there. No, it is what is going to be best for the Detroit Tigers in whether it's prospects, it's an everyday player, what are you getting back in return for trading away in his final year the best pitcher in the American League?
There's a lot to navigate here. Got the phone number 248-539-9797. There's a lot of different ways you can play this. You could trade him. You could extend him. or you could roll into the season rolling the dice. My least favorite, because that's the scenario where you lose him for nothing. The only way I'd roll into the season without paying him is if I had a gangbusters offseason where I said, hey, we're willing to throw $50 million a year at Tarik Skubal on a 5-year commitment, and he says no, but we take that $50 million a year, and instead of adding Alex Cobb and Kenta Maeda, we add Alex Bregman and Bo Bichette.
Right.
And we say, I'll roll the dice with Tarik Skubal for this year, knowing he may leave, knowing I'm a World Series favorite. If they take the money, because that's the lesson, you lose Scherzer, you still spent that money on Jordan Zimmerman. You would have been better off spending the money on Scherzer, Skubal, or good players around them while you've got them.
And so the only way that you go into this season, like you mentioned, in not having an extension and not trading him, knowing he's going to walk, to not come away with anything is to come away with, and I'm not going to say it has to be a World Series, but it's got to be a legit shot at the World Series.
You got to be all in.
Yeah.
You got to hold nothing back.
So with this all coming down, they're getting Borised. The Tigers are getting Borised. The fans are getting Borised. If Skubal's 1,000% committed to Scott Boras and how he does stuff, Greg brought it up. It's Scherzer all over again. Scherzer wanted to be paid more than Verlander because it was after Verlander's contract. That's pretty natural in sports. I'm going to hindsight us here a little bit. Should the Tigers have given Scherzer that?
Yes, they should have.
What's the answer here then? Why is it different?
Well, I would pay Skubal. I would.
See, I'm getting a little frustrated with the. There are people who are making Skubal the villain here, and while I do think there's reason to be upset with him and the fact that he's choosing this route, I'm not going to erase what he's done the last 2 years for this team,
right,
and make him an a-hole. Like, I didn't do that with Scherzer at the time. I knew the second the Tigers came out on, I'm pretty sure March 4th, 2015, and said this is what we offered him, that he was a goner because there were no way they were going to pay him more in JV. There was no, that was a Mike Ilitch thing, and they conducted themselves from a public relations standpoint very different than they ever did under Dave Dombrowski. And Dombrowski was then let go 5 months later.
Yeah.
It started the whole avalanche of that team falling apart. I just be careful. Look,
well, I want to be clear.
I think the answer.
There's what I would do and what I think the team's going to do, and those aren't the same thing.
Exactly. But when are they going to pivot?
Right.
And I'm not crazy about giving him the locked up guaranteed long term. I don't know if he's interested in something like a 6-year deal, $50 million a year with player opt-outs in 4, 5, and 6.
But it sounds like the Tigers haven't offered that.
Right.
Because if they did, that's a $300 million contract, and I have a hard time believing Boras is asking for $550 million. What this implies, the $400 million's been thrown out by industry sites that Skubal is like a $400 million pitcher.
Right, 8 years, $50 million a year.
This says the Tigers have offered about $150 million, which is embarrassing. That's not a real offer.
Yeah, I don't necessarily believe that is their offer.
Okay.
I really don't. I think that's almost a slap in the face. If we're going to learn, look, though, if it's Scherzer 2.0, if we're going to learn from it all over again, he got 7 and 215 at the time. I think this is 4 or 8 years, $400 million.
Sure.
I think that's what Boras is going for.
And would you give him it if you were the Tigers? And second question, do you think the Tigers are willing to give him it? It's the more important question. And the answer today seems to be no. So, will they invest around him to win this year? Harris has said there is no Skubal window. I have a hard time believing they're going to pivot and go all in. So if you don't believe in a Skubal window, if you're not going to get a deal locked up this offseason, you trade him. 248-539-9797. There's a lot to talk about. We got the ticket text. We'll get to the picks at 6:35.